The essence of masculinity is the preparation for disposability. What's deemed as being masculine historically, when you look at what men have done throughout time, the societies men have built, the societies that men have had to defend, men put their lives at risk to help civilize this world. A part of that is an acceptance of the fact that in order to do my job, I may have to risk my life, which means I have to prepare myself to be disposable. The problem with that is, as time goes on, I become reduced to just my utility. If we just put a period there, we would have an incomplete understanding of masculinity. I think there's more to us as men than just our utility to women and children.
This is Caesar Walker, the cool, calm, collected one.
And I'm Ronnie Gatry, the emotional one.
And we are the Tipping Point Podcast, your source for the black male's perspective.
Tipping Point Podcast.
In 2024, with all that's going on, what does a man look like to you? Becoming a man, being a man, what does that look like? And I'm gonna throw questions at us. I'm gonna chime in, get my thoughts. But what does a man look like to you?
My knee jerk and what I equate a man to be is, to answer your question, that looks like being an unpopular person. That looks like being a trendsetter of sorts, but not in the way society assesses trend setting.
Okay.
Men have to be grounded in what they believe. Men have to stand firm on what they believe. Men can't be swayed by trends and fads, not to penetrate their psyche at least. Men, to me, have to stand bold in a crowd of people who are doing other things. To me, that all boils down to being very unpopular.
Okay. Is that the only?
No. Oh, gosh.
Okay. Give me one more.
Huh?
Give me one more. Being unpopular in that
I was gonna break it down from there. I was gonna go full straw man corporate America on you.
Go for it.
Y'all still use that term?
Corporate America?
Straw man.
No, I use straw man for different reasons.
Oh, give me one.
No, it's totally unrelated to what we're talking about. But go ahead.
It's hard to put into words, but excuse me. You want a term different than unpopular?
Yeah.
Okay.
Give me something different than unpopular.
You want me to jump in? Because I had something similar to that.
Oh, you mean the same guy who said don't expect much from me tonight? Sure, why not?
Well, I mean, you're staring at the ceiling. I'm trying to help you out, man.
Oh, well, come on in, Black.
I mean,
Put your insoles on and let's talk. You said I was going to whisper on this thing that I walk.
One of the things that came up to my mind that was similar
You okay?
I think he missed us.
Okay.
That's what I'm going to chalk it up to.
Go ahead, Black.
He's turning up. Go ahead.
One of the things that popped to me was like men being underappreciated in this climate right now, because there was a clip on The View recently.
So there's this clip going viral online of a dozen women being asked the following question: do we need men?
Oh boy.
Most answered very quickly, no. And only one said she thought women needed a man in their lives, only one. But when men were asked a similar question, do we need women, most of them said yes. So why do you think that is?
Because men are useless. I mean, and by the way, I want to differentiate between straight men and gay men, because I think I would die without gay men. Nobody can gossip like gay men. Nobody can help you accessorize like gay men. Nobody can help you keep you from doing harm to yourself like gay men.
I know where you're going with this. Go ahead.
I have Handy Manny at home. He fixes everything. When things go bump in the night, he's the one that goes downstairs. When there's a bug to be exterminated, he does the extermination.
Nope.
When there is something to be fixed, he fixes it. He throws out the trash and he throws out the recyclables. I enjoy all the man stuff.
So
he does in my
wait a
house.
second. I know what you're going to say, but wait. She's really talking about a servant, let's face it.
No.
It's a handyman she's talking about.
It's a handy manny. Oh, it's a handyman with benefits.
We do not have...
Well, but the things that you're describing, You could pay somebody to do that. We're not talking about that. What about the inner life of a man? That's what this is about.
I need my man 3 to 4 times a week. And good for you guys. And then the rest of the time, I need a wife.
Broadly speaking, I feel like men have proven largely useless. Like, I think in the political moment, the people who are
Guys, don't hold
saying
back.
what needs to be said in my party, it's all women. The very few men, with the exception of Mike Pence and a few others, are saying what they need to. But in life, like, I need my husband. I don't know if I need any other men, but he is irreplaceable.
Yeah, yeah, I think so.
But that's what we're all saying. We like our husbands. We just don't need men beyond that.
Yeah, wait till you're married 20 years and you'll see how
Well,
replaceable
the
they
reason
are.
that women
So, along with what Gat was saying, like I think men feel like underappreciated, and also that I think in this climate, men tend to like suppress like their true nature and their true ideas, just so they won't be like ostracized or canceled.
I want to get into that.
It goes back to unpopularity.
Yeah,
Thank
that's
you,
why. That's
Black.
what made me think about it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Like suppressing how we really feel and how we really want the things we want to say and how we
what-
want to act.
For what fear?
And the thing that they'll like label it as toxic masculinity or something like that.
Well, let's go here then. Let's go here then.
I've been here. I'm waiting on you.
What is it that men are suppressing?
Fear.
no,
No. That describe what they're trying to avoid or what they're fearful of. But are men having to kind of water themselves down in today's climate?
100%.
Okay.
And I think be
what
silent.
are they watering? What are they watering?
I want to get very detailed with that question if I can.
Okay.
I don't think a man waters down.
Okay.
I think boys water down. I think males with lack of identity water down. I think a man, in my impression of what a man is, rebels against all of that.
Okay.
Bro, I mean, I'm gonna be real with y'all. Like, with some of my LBs and I got together recently, and it's just one of those things to where like you don't really get many opportunities to be together as life goes on for obvious reasons.
Right.
And bro, like, we had 10 of our 11 together. I got emotional. I did. I shed visible tears in the presence of them. That was not popular. It was not. But it's just like, why I think a man can do that. We talked about on this podcast before. I think it was episode number 139. We talked about, is it okay for men to cry?
138.
Okay, thank you. But like, yeah, we've allowed society to kind of move the goalposts on what a man should be. But historically, I think men did all these things. And it's okay.
Okay. You think men cried?
Jesus wept, bro. Who else is a man?
Okay.
I didn't think I was going to church in here tonight. I got more scriptures if you want some more.
I asked, did men cry?
Oh, Jesus wasn't a man?
Men. How many more you can name?
Jordan, have you seen the meme?
Oh, you just got them ready, huh?
I'm ready tonight, Walker. You've given me 2 weeks to prepare. This is dangerous. It's like Saban in a bowl game.
Okay. All right.
Come on, Clemson.
Which year? Yeah, be specific.
You ready to?
Okay. Okay. So what I mean is, because Black made mention of toxic masculinity. What is toxic masculinity?
Oh gosh, I ain't
What
got
is
the
that?
answer, Sway.
You don't?
I mean, I think it's a.
Can you look? Can
let's get
you pull up
let me
a
guess at
definition?
this.
You want to guess?
I can if you want me to.
You used to be big on that term.
I was,
You thought it
Walker,
was
but
provocative.
I was misinformed, and I'm man enough to admit that.
What was your understanding of it at the time?
Toxic masculinity meant that whoever dictates what a man is, if you go against that, it's toxic. Crying is one of them. Wearing a mauve suit is another one.
Not crying. Not crying is
okay.
toxic.
That's right.
Not crying.
Okay, I'll give you an example because I don't know how to equate this into a term. But me telling my sons, you cannot cry.
Sure.
Me telling my sons, you got to be tough. Me
Sure.
telling my sons, you need to figure it out and not talk about your feelings.
But you don't agree with that anymore.
No.
Wait, so wait a minute. You used to think that was toxic. You still do, right?
I still think it's toxic. I thought you were referencing the way I weaponized that term against you.
You still do. Just kidding.
Okay.
What you got, Black?
For the definition, it says toxic masculinity.
I'm going to say, do we need to go back to Gat? Go ahead.
It said this is an attitude or set of social guidelines stereotypical associated with manliness that often have a negative impact on men, women, and society in general. The term toxic masculinity isn't meant to imply that the idea of masculinity in itself is inherently bad. And I see another thing that lists some traits being unconditional physical toughness, physical aggression, fear of emotions, discrimination against people that aren't heterosexual, hyper-independence, sexual aggression or violence, anti-feminist behavior.
Okay.
Harrison Butker. Does that name ring a bell?
Yes.
He's a kicker for the Chiefs. He spoke at a commencement recently. I know we're past this. He was thankful and appreciative to his wife, but he also mentioned his wife went to college, but his value, or the value that he chose to show gratitude for, was her value of being a professional mom, holding it down at the house. This man got dragged to the point of speculation of the Chiefs front office thinking about releasing him. I say that because that was a recent example of what was deemed to be toxic masculinity.
Gotcha.
A man appreciating his wife for being a homemaker.
So how do we get here?
That's a good example.
That is a very good example. But how do we get there? Because there was a time where some of the same, I mean, I know society evolves, right? But there was a time where some of these traits that are deemed toxic were not once deemed toxic.
True.
They were actually traits that people relied on, right?
True.
Warren Farrell. Warren Farrell is an author, or Dr. Warren Farrell. He's an author of The Boy Crisis, which I actually recommend you get that book. Yeah, I think being a dad of two sons, you should get that book for sure. But he also has a book that he wrote called The Myth of Male Power. But he's a guy who was a feminist, still considers himself a feminist, but has begun to advocate for men when he began to see how society was trending in terms of the emphasis placed on girls versus boys, right? So he began to try to balance it, and he's now speaking and advocating for men, right? He doesn't look at it as a zero-sum game. So he advocates for women, but he also advocates for males and boys, right? One of the things, and I wrote it down, and I thought it was so powerful, is he made a statement, fellas, that the essence of masculinity is the preparation for disposability. Like when you go
Run that back one more time. I want to make sure I got all of that.
The essence of masculinity is the preparation for disposability. So in other words, what's deemed as being masculine historically, right? We're not talking just present day, historically, when you look at what men have done throughout time, the societies men have built, the societies that men have had to defend, right? Whether it's through war, building infrastructure, working dangerous jobs, men put their lives at risk to help civilize this world, right? There's a a part of that is an acceptance of the fact that in order to do my job, I may have to risk my life, which means I have to prepare myself to be disposable. Right? If I have to protect my family, protect my wife, I will have to do that to the death. Right? That shift in one's thinking contributes to it contributes to the value that I bring to the women and children of my family, community, so on and so forth. That's part of my utility to them. Would you agree with that?
Oh, yeah.
So over time, when we start thinking of a man's utility to his woman, to children, to women and children in said community, the problem with that is as time goes on, I become reduced to just my utility, right? It's possible that true masculinity extends beyond the scope of my utility to a woman and children. It includes that, obviously, right? Because I do believe part of masculinity is one's devotion to community, devotion to his family, right? But I think if we just put a period there and went on from there, we would have an incomplete understanding of masculinity. I think there's more to us as men than just our utility to women and children. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely.
However, in today's world, when you start talking about toxic masculinity, it almost seems like we're framing in some aspects, because there are aspects of how men behave that we don't condone, we don't agree with, right? But it almost seems like if you step outside of your utility alone to a woman, to children, that's not healthy. That's toxic. Because a real man would ... When you hear someone says a real man would ... whatever comes after would is in some service to women and children. Think about that. What if we're leaving out some important aspects that doesn't have anything to do with our service to women and children, Gat? What you think about that?
Oh, that's provocative. Utility. Yeah, I'm hanging on that.
Provision, protection, leadership, all of this are things that women and children benefit from.
Right.
What if there's more to us in addition to, not replacing, but what if there's more to us in addition to that?
Well, I mean, there's no place for that here. Let's start there. No, I mean, that's really very polarizing to think about because and I'm just going to use a high level context to show you where I am in this analogy.
All right.
But you had the generation of men who went to work, came home, put the lunch pail on the table, may or may not have eaten with their family, went to bed, woke up, did all again the next day.
Yeah.
That wasn't enough. Right?
Especially if you're looking at it through the lens of the day. Yes.
Correct.
Yes.
So there was a progression there to where it's like, you just gonna come home and put your lunch pail on the table? But we get back to your question. Did we go that far only to get back to where we were?
Well, where I'm going with that,
in a sense of being a utility, just go work.
Sure. Yes. In a sense, yes. What makes this deep, and I'm gonna bring it back around to Black's point that he brought up about the view, because there's less of a dependency on. Well, before I get there, think about what it took for a man to have that type of grasp of masculinity and being a man. I'm going to war. Remember, be all that you can. In other words, I'm going to reach my full potential as a man by signing up to potentially die, right? To potentially die. I'm reaching my full potential by signing up to potentially risk my life.
Let that breathe.
What type of mentality do you have to have, Gat? Can you wear your feelings on your sleeve?
Too risky.
But just think about the stoicism that it takes to go into war, right? To work a dangerous job, to work an oil rig. I'm talking about infrastructure.
Talking about real war. You're talking about dirty jobs.
So one of the things that Warrenfield talks about in the myth, I think he may have talks about it in the boy crisis, but I think he talks about in the myth of male power. We talk about the pay gap between men and women, right? And while I do believe that there are isolated incidences where people are prejudiced against women and women aren't being paid what they're due, right? What he talks about is one of the arguments of feminism is that when you look at these people, men who are in positions of power, men who are successful, men who make a lot of money, who have a lot of high status and the money that comes along with it, the perception is they're privileged, right?
Right.
And because they're privileged and we're not, we're being oppressed, right? That's kind of the argument, the gist of feminism. Yeah. What he argues is that road that those men took lead to the success that they have. However, what you don't know about that road is that there are tolls along that road. Expensive tolls. Because along the way to that success of making that job, that man had to make some choices, some hard choices. Do I spend time with my family or do I devote my time and energy and effort to this career? Do I compromise my integrity? Because we're beginning to see for a lot of men in power, they've made some compromising choices as it pertains to their character behind the scenes to get to where they are, right? The undue stress, the years that you take off your life with the undue stress to get here, how many people are willing to pay the tolls to stay on that road to that path of power? So he argues it's not that they have so much power, they gave up their power of choice to enjoy the things that really made them themselves in order to get here. They had to become almost someone totally different to get to that place of perceived power. They gave up their power. So what he's arguing is that there are a lot of choices that men make just to even be a man and be that utility. There's a lot of choices you got to make up here in your head if you're going to sign up to potentially risk your life in service to your community, country, family, whatever the case may be, right?
Yeah.
So when we get over into this today in terms of toxic masculinity, not being able to share your feelings, what if we're talking about a paradigm shift that we've placed on men with no instructions of how to really do that and no concept of the consequences of him sharing that information?
Okay.
Thoughts, gentlemen?
Where do I start?
Is that compelling?
Yes.
Like, so what if she's so used to me being the stoic one and I'm the one that she brings her problems to, I come in with my problems. Is she prepared to handle my problems?
No.
I heard one of my pastors say, founding pastor, he was like, pastors can't come in here and tell you their problems. They got to do the Bible just like y'all do it. They got challenges too. He likes to say they don't get discounts. Pastors don't get the pastor discount.
I like that.
Right?
Yeah.
We got to do life just like you. We got pressures just like you. We got people talking about us maybe more than you. I can't come in here and dump my issues onto y'all and then encourage y'all to live this life. No, I have to be polished and have myself together. Remember, we talked about that with Rashida. Remember I shared that with you guys? We can't dump our stuff because you're looking to us to be examples to you. So even though you may have a wife, you may have a significant other who is understanding, and God bless you if you do, but how many men can dump their problems onto their wife and it not be held against them later on?
Right.
That's the other side of that we don't talk about. Not only do I not have training for this, I don't know how to share. My dad never shared his feelings. So again, I don't have a model, and I don't have any assurances that when I do open up and get in touch with my feelings publicly, that it won't be held against me later on down the road. What do we do with that?
I guess, like I said before, you suppress.
Then you're.
So is he toxic?
He's just trying to.
Or is he just trying to do what
self-preservation
previous generations of men did, and that's survive?
Right.
He argues it's not necessarily a patriarchal system. It's a system based on survival. We have been trying to survive as people. And when it comes to survival, you do what you have to do to survive. Right?
Right.
It may be some extreme choices you got to make, but if that's been the precedent for us for years, and now on a dime, we're going to say men need to open up. How? How do we do that?
My question would be, why do we have to do that?
I think there's some benefits to it. I think in some spaces, the argument is not that you shouldn't, it's based on who you do that with. You know what I mean? So having your foxhole, like your guys that you can go to, like you got around your brothers and open up. But see, there's a safe space. You're around dudes who, you know what I mean? Therapy. There's outlets now today for you to do that. So I'm not saying don't, but at the same time, there's an argument as to who you do that with, because everyone doesn't have your best interest in mind.
True.
I was just thinking about when did that, as far as relationships, it just seemed like that became like a priority.
Yeah.
And I'm like, why did that become a priority all of a sudden? Like, who was pushing at that? Like, oh, if I date this man, I'm going to need him to be emotionally available and open to me. And I'm like, I don't understand, when did that change happen, and why is it such a necessity at this point?
Yeah. You're so I'm quoting. You have thoughts on that?
I mean, I got a lot going on in here after here.
Do you want to share? You want to share something?
I don't know where to start. Like, for real.
Has this been compelling for you?
Yeah, this is real.
Okay. You remember I went viral for doing something last year.
Which time?
I know, right?
That's a healthy question.
I talked about a DC character by the name of Superman.
Yes.
You remember the point that I made about, and this is Warren Farrell's analogy.
It's the same guy?
Same guy.
Okay.
Same guy.
We need to invite him on the pod.
I would love to have him on the pod. Trust and believe. I would love to have Warren Farrell on. He talked about the fact that Lois Lane was attracted to Superman. Right? Even though Clark was a good guy, available, all that, she wasn't as attracted to him. She was attracted to the dangerous guy, the fun guy, right? Once she got with Superman, there's a part of her that wants to see the same traits that she overlooked in Clark she wants to see Superman with, right? But in a hierarchy, the danger, the fun was more attractive and more higher prioritized than these good traits over here. She still wanted them. She still wanted those traits. She wanted all, but she selected for the things that she prioritized the highest. So the strong man, the fun man, you see what I'm saying? What's happening is, and I think a lot of it, Black, to answer your question, is with society, is a lot of women have been fed a lot of fantasy and propaganda through entertainment, social media, girlfriends, so on and so forth. I want this man who can do everything, right? Makes love to me like a porn star, yet has as many bodies as Jesus.
And can cry with me.
Can cry with you, but turn into Tupac in a moment's notice. You know what I mean? It's just this do-it-all type of guy. I think running parallel with this is the fact that the things that men, the utility of men, women now have the ability to do that for themselves. So the dependency on that for men isn't what it once was, even though women still are hypergamous. So they want to get on their level, but they're independent. You know what I mean?
Go figure.
Right. Another pod for another day. But what I'm saying is that as women are less dependent on a man for the security that they now are able to obtain for themselves, those other traits over there are starting to be talked about a little bit more. Right?
Yeah. I
could understand him not being emotionally available if I'm depending on him to provide my security. Now I got security. I want to know, I need you to be available. Like I'm available.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
So it's these types of things are what's changing. As women are changing, their expectations of us are beginning to evolve. And the things that have made men for so long, some of these traits and characteristics are becoming obsolete because of the advancements that women have made. Make sense?
Which goes back to the point you made at the top end of this podcast.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. So where's the place? Where's this place? Where's that man to be a man? Because again, I believe that if we just work with a baseline, my masculinity is tied to my utility to a woman and to children. That's a good starting point, but I fear that it's incomplete if we just stop there. Because we know there's more to us than our utility to a woman.
Is this the part of the podcast where we talk about what's missing?
What's missing? I like how you brought that all together. What's missing from that? Think about you. Think about you. Think about the things that you deal with that's independent of what your wife thinks, how she benefits, how it affects her. What are the things that you deal with as a man on a day-to-day basis, Kat?
Internally?
Period. What are some things she don't even know about?
And I've worn it as recent as this morning. But y'all know I get up early and I have my time. I go, it's mostly exercise.
Yes.
Keeping it a buck. Most of that time, my wife's at home, getting the boys ready. Usually she's giving all that time to the boys for real, because it's all about the morning routine or whatever. I've dealt with some internal guilt about that.
Okay.
And it's, should I be more available during that time?
Okay.
Would a man be more available during times, would a real man be more available during times like that?
Well,
I can combat it easily because I've learned the value of investing that time in myself. And I know that once I do that, that's going to positively impact, especially my family, but most people around me.
Right.
But I'm not going to say I don't struggle when I don't I don't have internal struggles thinking about that from time to time. Because dude, when I get home, everything's done.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. I don't know. Do you think that you should have some time to yourself?
Oh, for sure.
Okay. So we do.
I think about the time I didn't have that. Wasn't a healthy Ronnie.
Okay.
But I can capitalize issues very easily, or I can capitalize concerns very easy, and then I encounter thoughts of, well, you know, your job's pretty flexible. Like, who says you have to wake up at 4 a.m. to exercise? What if you waited till 9 when your wife was at work and your kids were at school? Then there's nothing at home for you to be worried about. These are things I think about. These are things that I think at times can erode my own perception of what a man does or how a man effectively serves.
Well, that's just a question for you and your wife.
Well, yeah. So that's why I asked, can I share internal concerns about what manhood looks like? Now, I'm thankful that like I have a healthy way to process those thoughts. And I'm like, no. I'm getting up early because when I get up, everybody's asleep. And then not only that, but like, no, I got to invest some time in myself. That's important.
Sure.
If my wife was tripping on that, I would have known by now. I really would.
I don't think she may not be.
She does not. But it's still, as a man, it's still internal things that I think about.
Is there more you could be doing?
Yeah.
Is there more you could be doing? But again, that's still in service to them, though.
Yeah.
I'm talking about outside of that scope.
Oh.
I'll give you an example.
Let me do all that?
I don't want to cut you off. I'll let you talk. I used to cut you off a lot back in the day.
I did too.
A word that you have grasped a lot that I'm going to use.
I'm on trial tonight.
Okay, what's your identity? Who are you as a man? That's outside of the scope of your devotion to.
Because nothing else should dictate that. That's something you should develop within.
Who are you as a man? Again, going back to Warren Farrell, like he used an example of this is why, again, survival mode. This is why previous generations pushed their children to certain professions. But I love art. I love teaching. I love kids. You're going to be a doctor. You're going to be an engineer. You're going to be a lawyer. You know what I mean? Because
I was gonna say something so wrong.
we need you to enter into this field so not only you be good, but your children will be good. Survival.
That's a threat to that person's identity.
So we didn't get to think about your passions. We got time to think about that. You have to do what you have to do. That's what's being drummed. So even if he hates it, even if he hates what he does for a living, his bank account is good. Children are set up. I've done my job.
Parents are happy.
I've done my job as a man. Even though inside, I hate all of this.
But that's the standard his parents set.
Sure, but that's the mentality they had in terms of what a man has to do, right? I'm asking, if we separate that, who are you apart from what you do for others? Who are you?
Walker, I think the answer to that goes back to my whole key point about what manhood is in 2024. That's unpopular for a lot of fellas.
Do dudes know who they are?
No. They think they do.
Okay.
Think about our influences.
Well, yeah.
You think I go to Metro and Future right now and promote a track that says, "Hey man, let's talk about guys being responsible." They running me about the studio. But males are flocking to that type of influence in droves. It's impacting their thoughts on what manhood is. Molly and Percocets.
Well, I mean, it appears to be working for Future.
Well, yeah, but here's the thing. I don't know Future. But I bet Future got his own identity.
He's probably not doing Molly and Percocets
Thank
either.
you. Future got a government name.
Nevadius?
Nevadius, you're right.
Yeah.
Wikipedia works on your side too. He's got a government identity.
Yeah.
That if I had to bet an exorbitant amount of money, it's different from what he's promoting behind the mic.
Oh, I'm sure. He was given that image. Most of these artists are given an image. Pac. We really think Pac was like that?
No, we know he wasn't. Ballet dancer, get out of here.
Drake ain't who he is either.
Drake's not even Drake. And you know I mean if I'm saying it.
Well, you've been off,
No, hey, you're not doing that tonight.
You've been off. Yeah, you've been, yeah.
But it's Aubrey. It is. Aubrey's a different person.
He is. Drake is a persona.
Yes.
For sure.
But that's my thing.
That's what these guys
they're dictating the influence of what
they're
manhood
selling.
is.
They're selling something they are not even,
Thank you.
and it's working.
And it's pushing. I'm guarding the term man here, but it's pushing males away from doing the work to establish their own identity.
Why do you think why do you think that it's so easy?
Oh, because this is a term or phrase that you used during the inception of this podcast. It's candy.
Sure.
You ever had a piece of candy that didn't taste good? Don't answer that.
Sure, but it takes a lot more work to find your identity, as opposed to taking an identity someone else gave you.
Work.
Takes work to find out who you really are. And what if what I really am don't line up with societal standards, cultural standards?
Because if it's not, then I become unpopular.
Full circle.
I can go full circle too, Walker. I ate my Wheaties this morning.
Do you eat Wheaties?
No.
They're nasty. I was about to judge you. You had any thoughts, Black?
I guess the only thing was that I was thinking about when y'all going back and forth about like a man's purpose and how I guess he puts that ahead of everything else in his identity. I was thinking about Tom Brady, about how he's like, he put his career first and like instead of like retiring when people thought he was retiring, like he wanted to keep playing, and they ended up having a negative impact on his marriage, that sort of thing. But I was thinking like he was probably putting how he felt first, but at the same time, I mean, his family was taken care of, but I guess that wasn't enough for his wife.
That's a
Really good point.
That's an interesting
Black
point.
came to cook too.
What are you looking at me like that for?
I'm in the zone. Come on.
I had it's funny you mentioned that. I shared something with the brother on IG, because this is related to our last conversation that we had about when we have a dream, vision, purpose, so on and so forth. I don't know what all has happened in that Brady household. I don't know what promises was made that may have been reneged on. We don't know. You know what I mean? One of the things that I shared this with you actually, Gat. We talked about this too. I think the biggest thing as men, and I wish I would have shared this on the last recording, the biggest mistake I think we've made, us husbands, is we put the cart before the horse. And instead of pursuing purpose and pursuing fulfillment, we pursued the wife. And now we're trying to course correct. And this weight we're trying to bring this whole family along when it's easy to right the ship when it's just you. Right? So I don't know what Tom's purpose is. I don't know what most people's purpose is. But a lot of the issues we face with our significant other, in some respects, is for no other reason that we put her ahead of our purpose. And now that we're trying to reprioritize things, that's where some of the friction is coming from. And as men, we have to own the fact that we put the cart before the horse. This is our fault. Because if we had known to first things first, when she met us, she would have known what we was about. We told her we were one thing, got with her, and oh, babe, this is really what's on my heart. Well, now she got to recalibrate and rethink everything that comes with pivoting away from the direction we were going in as a family. We may be going in a great direction, but her world has been flipped upside down. So again, I don't know what promises Tom made that led to some of that friction, but that's some of the friction we're experiencing as husbands. Now that we find out who we're supposed to be, is because of that. Make sense?
You can wrap this thing up.
I thought about purpose, but what about values? This is one of the things you said, unpopular. Unpopular. You have a value system. You have some things that you believe in, stand on. That's outside the scope of what our culture, community may think. It may be a wild opinion if you state it but it's rooted in something that you value and believe in. Okay? We know our society has become a lot more free-spirited and liberated, right? There are certain values that our culture has adopted, in my personal opinion, undermine the goal of increasing the number of families, nuclear families, families in general, right? Would you agree with that?
Oh, yeah.
Having a value system that's outside the frame of our devotion, because see, our devotion and utility to our society is sometimes just going along to get along. We're not going to rock the boat. But what if we have a value system that exists outside of that? Because that's what we truly stand on. I quote him again. One of the things I heard Psychex talk about is, in order to be a man, you need two things. You need a spine and you need a set of balls. Spine helps you to stand up, helps you with your posture. Balls is the willingness to stand up. Right? What do you believe in as a man? What do you believe to be true about yourself, about life in general, about how life works? What do you believe in? And do you believe in it so much so that you're willing to separate yourself from the pack in what they believe? Because at some point, we got to stand for something, Black. We got to stand for something. Like at some point, I can't just be going along to get along my whole life with everybody. At some point, you got to draw the line in the sand. How can you lead if you're going along with the flow? So again, outside of the scope of our utility, what do you believe in? Identity, value system. I just named a few. Y'all name any others? Anything else comes to mind?
Identity and purpose are at the same table.
I have another one. I mean, this is kind of an extension of values, though. Integrity. Integrity. It's who you are, even when no one's looking. So when you're away from your family, who are you? See what I'm saying? Who are you? Okay. What I love about, and again, I know some people may not believe in the Bible or whatever. Some people look at the Bible as an allegory. Some people take it literally. What I love about, I really am starting to believe that like Genesis, the first 3 chapters of Genesis is my favorite part of the Bible because it teaches us about masculinity. in so many respects. But in Genesis 1, God would speak something and reality would line up with whatever he said. He said, let there be, it was, right? I believe that if we're created in the same image and likeness of him, what we say, we need to make sure that reality lines up with what we say. What you say needs to mean something, right? You hear that all the time about being a man, right? Your word needs to mean something. With integrity, one of the most uncomfortable and expensive things that you can have in life is integrity. Because it sounds good on the surface, but having integrity is going to cost you something. It's going to cost you time. It's going to cost you money. It's going to cost you effort. It may even cost you an opportunity, Gat, because you may have to walk away from some things to preserve your integrity, right? It may cost you your reputation. Again, unpopular. I can't do this because this doesn't align with what I stand for and believe in, right? Sometimes you may have to tell your family, we're not doing this at all. And here's why we're not doing this. And I'm not playing. Dead serious. I don't care how you feel about it. We're not doing this. We're not doing that. Right? Integrity. That's uncomfortable. Okay, I said I was going to be here and now is the day of and I'm tired. I don't want. The most uncomfortable thing you can have can be integrity because I put my word out there. I have to align reality with what I said I was going to do. Right? You can't trust me or follow me as a leader if I say one thing over here, but then do something completely different over there. That's not, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So when you talk about identity, you talk about even purpose, you talk about integrity, having a value system. These are things that make you, you. Apart from your devotion and service to others, who are you? What makes you you? What do you stand on? When you speak, is it gospel? You know?
Yeah.
Fulfillment. How fulfilled are you as a person outside?
This is big.
Outside of your devotion to family. There are a lot of men who are devoted to their families, devoted to taking care of their wives and children. Good men, but they are miserable. Midlife crisis, these men, they start tripping. They get to a certain age. They haven't, show me a man who's having a midlife crisis, I'll show you a man who's still searching for himself. Still searching. Who are you? See, Adam had all this figured out before Eve showed up. There's no midlife crisis with Adam. I know who I am. I know what I'm about. And my fulfillment, I gain fulfillment for what I do for others. I'm a servant leader, right? I'm devoted to my family, but I already was fulfilled before you showed up. God said it's not good for man to be alone. Adam never said that. Adam was busy. He was too busy. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You already are you have found yourself. When you find identity, purpose, fulfillment has to come behind that. Especially when you're actively pursuing that and whatever that is. This is... And when you're doing these things, it's going to be difficult for you not to survive. It's going to be very difficult. You're going to figure things out by having these things alone. What's y'all's thoughts?
Only thing I think you could probably add is men have to be accountable.
Yeah. I agree. I absolutely agree with that. Elaborate, please.
When you're taking a leadership role, so everyone's following you. So when it goes wrong, it's on you. You have to own up to it.
Absolutely.
Unpopular.
Yeah. It is unpopular.
But that's integrity.
And it's necessary.
That's integrity. Because again, it's expensive. It's uncomfortable to say, I dropped the ball. You're right.
And I also thought about when you're talking about fulfillment, I guess you have to weigh like what's personally fulfilling to you despite what your partner may think.
Yeah.
Like, just like a silly example, like I have friends who are gamers. They like to sit and play in the house, play video games, but to their wife or whatever, they may be like a waste of time or something like that, but they get fulfillment and joy out of that.
Right.
So that's got to be something you have to, like, I guess, fight for, stand up for. Like, hey, this is something that fulfills me despite how you feel about it.
Right. Right. I agree. What you think about that?
This is not going to be popular.
How many times you said that today?
That's a lot. But I got to go back. I didn't want to interrupt you, but I got to go back. This putting the cart before the horse thing is real. It's real.
Yeah.
And you're looking at a guy that did that.
A lot of us have done that. Yeah.
But dude, it's hard. It's hard to get that horse back out front.
I would argue that if you got married in your 20s, it's a good chance you did that.
Okay.
It's a good chance you did that.
Yeah.
Strong chance you did that.
That comes from somewhere, though.
What do you mean?
That our willingness, our desire to do that.
Get married.
Be everything, or be what we think is everything to this woman. That comes from somewhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if it's important to talk about where that comes from.
That's culture.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
But
Previous generations got married around this time. It was an order of things. Graduate high school, go to college, get married.
Right.
Did you get a job?
Kind of like
get
a
married.
life checklist of sorts.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, though. It all feels good in the moment. You're young. You haven't figured yourself out yet. Most times you haven't.
You're not even sure if you like this career.
True. But I think the reality is women don't want that.
No, they want. What do you mean?
They don't want to be the cart.
I don't know about that.
Think about it.
Elaborate.
This is complex, but y'all just just bear with me here.
I feel like this is a counterintuitive truth you about to tell.
Okay. It feels good. It looks good.
To be priority number one.
Yes. But when you think of all that comes with that, you think about when this man enters that home and this man is clueless. It's going to put some strain on that woman. We can't talk about it because I'm the cart. I'm out in front. I'm being prioritized.
Okay.
It feels good. But what I want is something different. You know what I want? I want what my dad is.
Assuming she has a good relationship with him.
About it. Most times, we've talked about this, and I don't think we can talk about this enough. Most times, that woman that I'm using this example comes from a father who was doing the same things. Well, who was building an expectation.
Yeah, you gotta be careful with that one.
Right.
Though. You gotta be careful with that one.
Building an expectation. Forgive me.
Yeah. You gotta
Right?
be careful with that one. I'll explain why you gotta be careful with that one.
Pull me out of this if I need to be.
Keep going. Keep going. We'll talk. Keep you cooking.
So
I'll tell you why we gotta be careful about that.
I think naturally that's what that woman is going to be attracted to because that's what daddy did. So now I got a man here who's essentially making me a cart. But it's appealing because these are similar to what this is similar to what my dad may have encouraged me to look for.
Maybe.
We're speculating here.
Yeah.
But what no one's talking about is, how is that man when he's at home? To your point, that man may be unfulfilled.
Maybe. Sure.
There are debts to be paid when a man is unfulfilled.
Sure.
Who's gonna be the debt collector?
They are. Here's what I would say to that.
And if I could, Walker, forgive me for cutting you off.
Go ahead.
I'm passionate about this because I've been that.
Sure.
In a sense, I may still be some of that. But the value here, Walker, I promise I'm gonna give you the mic. The value here, Walker, is as I've started to reposition that cart, I've seen nothing but great things, especially from the cart.
Right. Well, you said this reason here. I'm gonna push back using some of your previous words. When you put the cart before the horse, you was trying to make her happy. Remember this conversation?
Mistake number one.
Okay. When you then began to focus on the horse and seek the things that made you fulfilled and happy, it made you more attractive in her eyes.
Correct.
Pretty much what you was, okay? Yeah. That made you became a lot more interesting to her in that regard. Because now she sees that you have a passion for life outside of her. I'm gonna tell you why that's a problem, is because I am determined, and sometimes it may come off as misogynistic, but I'm determined to help men view women as human beings as opposed to angelic beings. They're human. They have blind spots. And one of the things that women may not admit publicly, they don't want to have to live up to that pedestal you put them on. They don't. Okay? So what happens is they're attracted to men who are interesting, which means you got to have something going on for you. You got to have something that you're passionate about for you, the horse, right? So the goal is you'd have to give her her own rom-com, her own fantasy. You have to be the guy she admires, right? Instead of being the woman you admire, because now she has to live up to something that she may not even think she is, or you think she is. See what I'm saying? So to your point, once you begin to reprioritize things by focusing on you and finding things that made you excited and get up in the morning and ready to go, it made her like, what this dude into now? What is he? She began to change, right? That's real. That's real. Definitely agree with that.
But getting there, I had to take grasp of those key points you just eloquently described.
Yeah.
Didn't know it at the time or was going through it. But you got to have most of those. Bonus points if you got all. But it's a process. So.
It's a process.
But yeah, you have to go about figuring those key points out.
Yeah.
And it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable.
It's a counterintuitive truth because, again, if you believe the fantasy, I'll just go after this woman that you know what I'm saying? And sometimes that works, depending on if you got if you can riz her up, it may work. But, you know.
Can I simplify this?
What's that?
What is a natural design when using the continued example of a horse-drawn carriage? What is the natural design?
Cart. You getting fancy? It's just a cart.
Horse-drawn cart. Thank you. Explain to me the natural design.
Has a back wheel on it.
It's a back wheel.
Mm-hmm.
Who steers?
Horse.
All right. So you put this cart in front. This cart says, I'm out of control.
Not really going anywhere, actually.
There's no steering wheel on this cart.
Yeah.
I need a horse.
Yeah. You want to take your mic and screw the mic from the...
I'm dropping something. Never thought about that, but yeah.
I was waiting for the cart to turn into an EV.
Stay tuned. The way society's headed.
I would like to talk about this month. We're gonna dive into fatherhood.
Okay.
I think I want to go down that path. What you think?
I think it's very, very present. Very. I'm looking for a more eloquent term.
Appropriate.
You know what you are, Walker? I haven't said this in a while. You know what you are?
You haven't said this in a while, but I don't even know where you're going. What am I?
You've used AI before, right?
I'm ChatGPT.
You can throw trash at AI.
Yeah.
I've been throwing trash at you, and you've been polishing it and spitting it out eloquently. Thank you. Yes. Yes, a lean into fatherhood for June is very appropriate.
I think we should talk now that we're talking about. I want to expand on this too because I've been flirting with this topic for what a year.
Yeah,
talking about what it means to be an alpha male, sigma male. Like we're going to dive, but I wanted to kind of break the ice and just like what is expected of us today, and what should we be focusing on outside of our devotion to the obvious things.
It's an important conversation.
Yeah,
very important.
Yeah.
Coming from a man who was only thinking about everything else but himself, this is a very important conversation.
Sure. Good. Well, listen, I hope y'all enjoyed this talk. You already know what to do. If you're watching us on YouTube, please hit the like button, share this video, subscribe. You can find us on social media as well. We're on X as well as IG at the THA Tipping Point. THA Tipping Point. Follow us there. We got content coming out. Oh, it's same for TikTok as well. So check us out on TikTok as well. As always, I'm Caesar Walker. He's Ronnie Gatchery. The guy behind the camera is Black, and we are the Tipping Point Podcast. Thanks again.